everyone. Welcome to From Combat Boots to Business Suits, the podcast brought to you by the Officers Association Scotland. My name is Jane Burns, and I am in a very different location to normal, as you can tell, with my wonderful guest, Mr. Matthew Quinn. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure to be here. I've been so excited to come and record this very episode for reasons that are going to become very clear very quickly. But we're here to talk about today a slightly different topic to the norm for Combat Boots to Business Suits. We're kind of talking about finding purpose outside of the uniform. So before we get too much into where we are, we're going to leave that as a wee teaser for the audience. Can you please give me a little overview, Matthew, of your military career and what's kind of brought you to where you are today?
Sure. The military career won't take long, actually. I joined the army when I was 18, very young. Was lucky enough to pass through to Sandhurst and off to join the Royal Logistic Corps. 47 Air Dispatch specifically was my aim, and sadly got injured. I served, I think, around 3 years, most of which was spent in Headley Court before it was famous, when it was the Joint Services Rehabilitation Unit. Okay. And Cambridge Military Hospital, which is now gone, I believe, and left with a medical discharge, and a bit. I was very lucky. This was the early 90s, and we'd just gone through options for change. Yep. Some of your listeners will remember that. And they weren't giving away regular commissions very easily at the time, and I got one. I was one of the only people in Sandhurst at the time that actually got a regular commission of the first time of asking. So my mind was a full career, you know, kind of at least 16 years or whatever it might be, and then kind of got dumped back into the world of the civilian world, fairly young, and with absolutely no idea what to do.
Because had you always wanted to join the military? Was that your kind of plan? And now it's all been kind of ripped away from you? It was just ripped away, yeah. When I was in my early teens, the Foreign Legion was where I was going. Oh, yeah. Which was the kind of the dream. And a few of my pals actually joined the Legion. I'm very, very comfortable to admit that I bottled out of that. When it ended, kind of a little bit more. That's honest.
It was just at the last minute I went, nah. But that was kind of what I was thinking in the early days, and then probably more conventional career. Yeah. Probably influenced by my parents, of them continually saying, "No, you're not doing that," kind of thing. Yeah. So as I say, I had no idea. So I didn't have a plan B. And by this point, I was kind of 21, so still fairly young. I toyed with the idea of going to university, but I'm a little bit hard of thinking, so decided that probably wasn't the best route for me. Again, much to the dismay of my parents, who are both graduates and both quite academic. Yeah. My sister, who's got a PhD, they're all quite academic. And
okay. So you're sitting kind of on the outskirts there, like.
Go to university. I can't spell it. So, and I just got a job. I ended up in the motor trade, mainly because somebody. Very kindly gave me a job. I was working in it sounds like a song. I was working in a scrapyard, and a chap came up and said, it needs an engine for a certain car, and I found him this engine. I got talking to the guy, and he said, "You don't sound like the normal scrapyard type person." Yeah. And so I started telling him my story, and before I know it, he'd had a chat with my boss at the scrapyard, and that was the Friday. And on the Monday morning, I was standing in a suit and tie in a car dealership as a car salesman, with absolutely no idea how that happened. Yeah. You know, life sometimes drops you these kind people that help you out, and I did that for a little while. And I've formulated my life in business in sales, and I've done the kind of business to customer direct sales. I became an account manager for a finance company after a little while, and eventually ended up as head of sales for a massive accountancy firm, which was as big a surprise to me as anybody else, really, because, you know, as I say, not even a graduate, never mind an accountant. So, you know, I kind of tumbled into that. And that was great. I then decided that I'd set up my own sales company, and Future Sales Factory was born, which is where I work now. Yeah. And that's been going now for about 15 years, and we provide training courses to big commercial clients all over the world. It's, you know, I'm very pleased with it. And it's also given us the opportunity to help as well. You know,
Yeah.
we do a lot of work, as you know, for the Officers Association. We
Absolutely.
do training courses and organisations like Scottish Edge, which is an entrepreneurial support business that gives people grants and funding for new businesses. So we help them in a similar way to we help the Officers Association. The fortunate thing about it, being based literally, and I'm pointing, I know your viewers can't see it, but like, well, you know where I'm
But it
going.
is quite
100
literally
yards
just
away,
round
yeah.
the corner, yeah.
So our office is 100 yards away around there, and my house is about half a mile that way. A couple of years, about just before COVID, somebody was talking to me. I think we'd been to a reunion or something like that, because I'm still very involved and very connected with my old army friends.
Yeah.
And one of them deserves a mention. Johnny Wakelin, he's a brigadier now, is very, very good at getting people together. You know, there's always one of those in a group, and Johnny's kind of ours. And we were sitting around a table at some nice restaurant in London talking about the old days, and somebody asked, well, you know, why did you join in the first place? And my joke is always that I joined the army because they retire at 55, because that's my plan is always to retire at 55, and that's kind of my answer whenever people ask me the question. Whereas everyone else says, oh, you know, I want to see the world and look good in green, or you know, whatever. It might be. But the truth of the matter, which came out in this conversation, is that the desire to serve is very strong, and I think it's important, and I think that one of the things that connects pretty much everybody in all the services is this desire to serve, and you know, kind of wanting to help people, and unselfishness and all of those kind of values. And when I left this reunion, I decided to start riding the blood bikes for the NHS, and COVID hit just after this. So we became really busy because the blood bikes were sending blood samples all over the country. So I actually got out and about through COVID more than most people. And the other funny thing was that there's a lot of retired gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, who ride the blood bikes. So the demographic is quite old, should we say, mainly. Because there's lots of people who've got to a stage in their life where they've got a bit of spare time. They love motorbikes, so they jump on high-powered motorbikes and fly around the place delivering, you know, bits and pieces for the NHS. And it was also noted that we were walking into blood labs quite a lot in COVID.
Right.
So it became obvious that we should get our vaccine for all of these reasons. And my mother-in-law, who just turned 80 through COVID, was absolutely furious that I got my COVID vaccine, not only before her, but before like most people. It was like it was one of the first. We just got this phone call. I was sitting in the office and we got this phone call. They said, if you can get to the hospital now, you can have your COVID vaccine. And I was actually on a Zoom call with a client, and it was a text that came through, and I said to this client, look, if I go now, I can get my COVID vaccine. He was like, ring me back later. And off we went, and we all got our COVID vaccines on the same day. So that was quite good, and we enjoyed that. And the blood banks is a fantastic thing, but it kind of wasn't enough. Yeah. And I was walking home one day, past here, and there was a sign in the window that said recruit on-call retained firefighters. And I didn't know what that was. So obviously I Googled it, and the whole retain system, which I'm sure we'll come into in some detail later, was explained. And I thought, I'll do that. And came in for an interview with the station commander, went through the various hoops. I was told, actually, that when I went through my training, I was the oldest firefighter ever to go through training. Really? Yeah, I was the oldest, because I was 50. When I did my physical test, I was 50. That's amazing. And it's brutal. The physical test is absolutely brutal, because you have to be quite fit to do this job. And I was a bit worried. My wife was insistent that I wouldn't pass. Sure. I kind of, but the head went into training mode, and passed the physical test and lots of people do fail, which reduces the recruitment pool massively. Sure. Because there's lots of, and again we'll go into this probably in more detail later, but there's lots of hoops to jump through for the whole recruitment process. Not only the fact that you have to be within 5 minutes of a fire station when you're on call. Yeah. So yes, I passed the physical test, and then couldn't move for about a week, and then you go away and you do your initial training, and here we are. Yeah. So let's, brilliant. So then let's now go full circle to where we began, and
get into a little bit about where we actually are.
Okay, yes.
Because this is exactly why I wanted that. It was everything that you mentioned about that strong desire to serve. And of course, you ended up in a really unfortunate position where you were unable to serve after such a short period of time. And one of the things that I'd be interested in talking to you about later is, you know, how you got from being medically discharged and then at 50, you walked in here to do
Took me that long to get
your
better.
Training.
I wasn't looking after myself for 30 years.
Well, we can get into that. No. But yeah, tell the audience where we are now.
So this is Haddington Community Fire Station, as it's known, and the term community fire station normally refers to what's called a retained on-call station. So we're bang in the middle of Haddington. The police station's next door, which is always good fun for a little bit of kind of rivalry and
I bet, yeah.
As I say, my office is there, my house is up there. So the Haddington Community Fire Station serves Haddington and a few of the outlying areas like Gifford and Garvold and places like that. And kind of there's one in North Berwick as well, and there's one in East Linton. So the community fire stations tend to be as I say, what we call on-call or retained fire stations. And the whole idea is that the kind of rural areas, and there's lots of it in Scotland. I'm given to understand, I might be wrong on this, but I'm given to understand that the only fire service in Britain that doesn't have a retained system is Manchester.
Oh,
and I don't know why.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But somebody told me that, and as I say, if I'm mistaken, apologies to the people in Manchester. But that's what I heard.
Yeah.
But it's very prevalent in Scotland because we've got a lot of rural areas.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, the service simply can't afford to have whole-time firefighters sitting in here all the time, like they can in Edinburgh or wherever, because there's more need for them, there's more call-outs, there's more people that need help and all that kind of stuff. So they create this retained system, and there's a subtle an important difference between retained and volunteer. So a volunteer doesn't get paid. I volunteer for the blood banks. There's Still, yes. Yeah. I get to ride motorcycles for free.
Yeah, fair one. By the sounds of things, all the grannies in Haddington are doing it, so I'll be moving here when I retire, get myself on a motorbike.
You're off. But so the volunteer doesn't get paid.
Right.
And if you don't get paid, then it's difficult to hold that person to a contract. So one of the biggest problems in the blood banks actually is people filling shifts, because people are doing it literally in their spare time, and there's no malice in it. It's just quite often there's a gap in the shift, and everyone panics, and then somebody ends up going, "Oh God, I'll do it," because we don't want to let the NHS down.
Yes, of course.
But there's no kind of contract. Whereas in the retained system, and this is what I think is quite clever, and the important difference, because people sometimes refer to me as a volunteer firefighter, and I'm not. I'm a retained firefighter.
I'd never heard the term retained firefighter until we had our initial conversation actually about this.
Well, neither did I. Not until we had the conversation.
Yeah, but until you,
But the retained system basically, you get paid not very much, but that's not important. That's not why we do it. But you get paid a retainment fee, or a retaining fee, rather, and then there's a contract. So there's a contract of employment, which means that there is kind of commitment both ways.
Yeah.
And you're committed to a certain number of hours per week, and you're on call for those certain number of hours per week. And when the pager, which we all wear constantly, and now you can spot firefighters walk around because they'll have one of these on their belt. When that goes off and you're on call, then you're here. The official time is within 8 minutes.
Right.
It's normally a lot faster. Well, it's certainly faster for me if I'm in the office, because I can finish my cup of tea and just wander around the corner and I'm still here before everybody else. So the official time's 8 minutes. You get here, you get your kit on, the call sheet comes out, you know where you're going, you jump in the appliance and you're off. And that can happen 24 hours. Anytime, yeah. So luckily it's loud enough to wake me up.
Yeah.
So if it goes off in the night, then you can get there. So
there was something, when we had our initial conversation, there was something that really stuck with me. And this is obviously going to get into why you want to talk about this on the podcast, and why this might be such a great way for ex-military to kind of get that sense of service and purpose in there. As you said to me, that it gives you that adrenaline rush again, like there's a little bit of danger in the air that you've missed from not having had that military career. Can you just talk a wee bit about that?
Yeah, and that's important. You know, you ask pretty much anybody who's served and why did he serve and the desire to serve. You know, we do say, and it is true. I know it's true for me. I know it's true for many of my friends. But there's a sense of adventure as well, right?
Course.
You know, and excitement and the need, the kind of need for that. And I think the need for that's quite important. And those are the number of things that this fire service have done for me. And I love this, by the way. Absolutely love it. And I would recommend it to everybody. Yeah. And you, as we talk, you'll probably learn more about why I say that. But I would absolutely, if you're out there and you've left one of the services and you're looking for something, this is the place to be, without a doubt. It's absolutely brilliant. And there's a number of reasons for it. The very first thing that hit me, bear in mind, I left the army kind of before Facebook and online media and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I lost all my friends. Like, overnight, I lost the closest group of friends that one could imagine. Straight away. We had each other's phone numbers and we wrote letters and things like that, and a few people were kind of kind enough to stay in touch. But these were guys who were early on in their military career, and they were working hard to get themselves through that kind of subaltern level of well, it's not just a military thing, that is it. I suppose anybody that's starting off in a career has to get the head down and kind of work at it. So they didn't have time for me. And I didn't have time for them either, because I was trying to find out what I would do for the rest of my life. And we're all dotted around the globe, you know. I was lucky enough to have a really strong group of friends back at home. Yeah. So they, you know, kind of filled that gap. But I did, I mean, deeply miss my service friends. Deeply miss them. Because these are, I mean, you live with them, you know, and you work with them and live with them and do everything with them and you have fun with them and, you know, you cry and you laugh and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, and luckily, you know, I started over the years when people's careers calmed down a little bit and my career calmed down a little bit, we got back in touch, and I've been fortunate enough to get back in touch with many of my friends. My daughter's godfather is a guy that I joined on the same day with. I was best man at someone's wedding who we were in early days of Santa. So we're going to a reunion this weekend for, you know, another group of people. So it's tight, and online media is good for that. Yeah. But also a bit of effort is good for it. However, I think that carries on. I don't think that ever goes away. I miss being with a group of like-minded individuals. Yes. And you absolutely get that here. You know, we're all a very similar type of person. We're also kind of by values and intent, we're all very similar. Yes, yeah. The characters are very different. So the kind of scattering of people that are here, you've got people from all different social classes, you've got all people from all different educational backgrounds, you've got all people from all different careers. Yeah. But we've all got that alignment of values, which makes it just a wonderful place to be. And you've got the guy that's oops.
This was always going to be the trickiest. I tell you, for the sake of those of you that are just listening on audio and haven't got the visual, it was so difficult to set this up in here. So we're actually doing very well so far.
I think that's the first time it's fallen over.
It is the first time, and the first time actually on the podcast in general. So there's a lot of firsts happening here today.
Well, as I say, it's you know, there's the funny guy, there's the serious guy, there's the moaner, you know, there's all of those people that people remember from their, you know, platoons, troops, whatever it might be, and there's all of those people. But you know, we're all really good friends, and we're all there for each other. So the camaraderie is hugely important. Yeah. And you get that from day one. People are so welcoming. You know, I walked in on my first day. I was older than all the other trainees, significantly. You know, one of the guys that I'm at the same level with as a trainee, he's 21. Yeah. You know, so I'm 30 years older than the guy. We're good mates. The age, well, for me, I don't know whether he's listening to this or not, but for me, the age falls away. It doesn't make any difference. And when that pager goes off, have you seen that scene in Trainspotting? There's another one in Pulp Fiction where they hit the adrenaline. The guy has an overdose.
Yes, that's how it feels.
Yeah,
okay.
If your pager goes off in the middle of the night, that's it. You're up and you're like awake. Yeah. And so's the rest of your family as well, actually. You're crashing out of the door. My first call out was an absolute disaster because I wasn't ready for it. And the pager went off. My wife woke me up saying, your pager's going off. Because I'm a very deep sleeper. She then kind of kicked me out of bed and I then ran around the house. I'd put my clothes away when I'd gone to sleep that night. So
Yeah.
I'd nicely folded my trousers.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm running around the house trying to find my clothes. I'd go downstairs. I'd slip my shoes off without taking the laces out. So my wife was actually undoing my laces of my shoes.
I love it.
And I got down here. No, by the time I got into the appliance, I'd got my my kit on. And I'm panicking, of course, because it's my first call out. And I've got my braces around the wrong way, so I'm getting choked. My tunic's not done up properly. I got into the appliance and put my helmet on, and the guy next to me the first thing I did was just got in and sat down. What you do is you move along the seats.
Right. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
Such a basic thing.
But probably really relatable again for ex-military, like these little basic things that might seem
Little
trivial, but they matter
Yeah.
to the process.
So I just got in and sat down. I was going, move along. So I got in. And then I'm sitting there, and we go flying out the door, and I'm really, really excited. And then they all went, you take your helmet off. I was like, what? And then I realised no one else had the helmet on, and I'm sitting in the back with my helmet on. And you don't wear your helmet in the appliance because it's health and safety risk.
Right. Okay.
First of all, they're like, take your helmet. So I took my helmet off, and I kind of dropped it on the floor. And he's like, no, there's a place for your helmet there. So I kind of. And we turned up at an old people's home around the corner. It was a false alarm. And I'm like, well, what's happening now? What's happening now? No, now we go home. So we came back, and then everyone just went. Because I'm thinking, do we have a cup of tea now? Do we like a bit of debrief?
Are we making a thing out of this?
Is this, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's 2:00 in the
It's
morning.
exciting. Let's just stay.
And it was like everyone just stripped the kit and back in the cars and gone back to bed. So I then go home. My wife's sitting up waiting for me. Face like thunder, as you can imagine. She's right. Next time you're on call at night, your clothes are there, your shoes are there. And so I've now I can be from fast asleep in bed to in my kit in the appliance in about 5 minutes.
That's amazing. Yeah.
It's a big difference, but it is that. I was talking to somebody just after I left, an ex-Royal Marine actually, there's a fair few former service people in the fire service, and this particular chap's ex-4-3 commando. He's a lovely guy, and I was talking to him, and I said, that level of excitement when you're in there, because you're not sure what you're going to go arrive at.
Yeah.
It could be an RTC, somebody could be in awful trouble, it could be a house burning down, there could be people in the house. You've got a kind of a basic level of understanding on the call-out sheet. So it's a fire, and there's various codes that will tell you various things, fire in the open, persons reported, all this kind of stuff. But you're not sure what it's going to be.
Sure.
So there's that real excitement. You're going out, somebody could be in grave danger and trouble, and without you, they're going to keep in grave danger and trouble. So there's lots of value and excitement. And I was saying this to this guy, and I said, I still get really excited. About 3 months after I joined, I still get really excited in the appliance. And I said, I suppose that goes after a bit of time. He's been in for about 4 or 5 years, and he went, no. He said, the day that goes, you leave. Yeah. He said, that you've got to have that.
Which is the same, I guess, for the military as well, isn't it? It's like when you're not feeling that sort of, when it just becomes your day job, if it ever does. I mean, I'm not ex-military myself, but I can imagine that being a time to go, do you know what, it's time to hang up my boots.
Exactly. And it's that wonderful balance between danger and dare I say it, fun. You know, and I'm not trying to belittle what anybody does, and I'm not trying to kind of take away from some of the dangers, some of the suffering that people might be in, because obviously that's a massively important part of the job. But the adrenaline makes you go, I'm doing something good, and that is. It's not enjoyment.
But it suits the temperament of person that would join the retained service or join the army. One of the things that I've found the most interesting since starting this podcast and working with the Officers Association more broadly is that when we meet people that are first going into their resettlement journey, there's a lot of different reasons why people will pursue certain career paths. Some people might have a young family, so they're really looking for that, that pay packet, that good salary. A lot of people really jump onto financial services because there's a lot of those schemes that can get you in the door, that sort of thing. But people can sometimes find themselves stuck behind a desk, remote working, so very isolated, and working in an organisation, I hope I'm not speaking to a turn here, but that doesn't maybe feel like it really means something. You're working to gain profit for an organisation, which is perfectly fine, but it's not fulfilling that sort of inner.
It's a job.
It's a job.
It becomes a job, and I'm very aware of that.
Yes,
I've had jobs.
Yeah, you've had jobs, and you've had a really successful sort of corporate sales career in your own right. But of course, we're sitting here right now because this is really where you get your why. So what I'd like to get into is just the sort of mental health aspect of this. A lot of people can find themselves, once they've landed that first job, for all the reasons I just mentioned, in some dark times, actually, feeling really alone, really isolated, missing that camaraderie that we'd spoken about. So what have been the benefits to your mental health, if you don't mind me asking, to doing this?
I don't mind you asking at all. I think it's really important, and I think it's something that we should talk about constantly. The first thing I'll say before I answer in full is the fire service is wonderful on that score. They are really, they're on top of it.
Yeah.
And they see the importance of mental health where it should be, you know, and in many ways the fire service is kind of ahead of its contemporaries in that respect. They really, particularly because they're aware there's a large percentage, I think it's about 80% in Scotland, of people who are these retained firefighters because of the landmass that we've got, because of the rural areas. So the fire service are very keen to understand that, you know, these aren't whole-time firefighters. They're people that will go out to do a job, attend an incident, be there for 2 or 3 hours, and then, you know, it's happened during dinner. You know,
and need to get up and go to their day job the next day and still be able to switch on. And
I've paused conversations with clients. You know, I've been on the phone to a client, and my page has gone off, put the phone down, gone away, come back 2 hours later, pick the phone up again to my client.
Yeah.
And in that 2 hours, I might have seen something quite horrible.
Yeah,
you know, But so the fire service, they're really aware of that, and I think it's wonderful. There is an enormous amount of benefit for doing something. For someone like me, so I'm fortunate, and I know I'm fortunate. My mental health is quite robust. Or as my wife puts it, I don't have much empathy. Which I think is the same thing. But that's what she says to me all the time. Empathy, Matthew. I go, okay. But
I flick my empathy switch.
Yeah, but I don't want to make light of it. But it's really good. My mental health, luckily, and I'm fortunate, is quite robust. And it is made more robust by this.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because of the people you can lean on. Everybody in here is someone you can talk to. Yeah. Everyone in here is somebody who understands. Everyone in here is somebody who can come and talk to you. And we've got that really kind of open relationship. One of the most important questions that I had to answer when I started thinking about this came from my wife. It's very clever. She said to me, it's a small community. Haddington's a small place.
Yeah.
Okay, it's bigger now than it was before, but you know, it's one of those places where most people know most people. And Wendy said to me, what would happen if you went to an incident that was quite bad and it was somebody you knew? And of course, my first reaction to that was quite kind of, I suppose, a bit gung-ho. Wow, rather me be there than anybody else and all this kind of stuff. But I've thought about that question quite a lot, actually, because it is really, really important. Yeah. What is it if it's someone I know and they're in grave danger? I still maintain my initial approach to anything in life is to help. And my colleagues in the fire service are highly trained. You know, I'm still very much in training, but these guys are impressive. You know, they're highly trained individuals. They're highly qualified. They know exactly what they're doing. They move into action like that. Yeah. You know, all of this kind of stuff. The training side of it is really well done. I would rather us be there than pretty much anybody else. Yeah. So if it was someone I knew, I would have some comfort. I'd be sad that it was someone else, but the professionalism, I think, would still kick in. There are processes in place in the fire service that you know, if you do know somebody that's in a bad way or, you know, in serious danger, you sometimes are taken off the job and replaced by somebody. So they're very, very sensitive to, you know, if it's a close friend or something like that, you're off the job and you're taken away, and, you know, people's dignity is restored and all that kind of thing, and that's important. But it also works the other way. The more I've thought about this, the more I've realised it works the other way, because being a small community, we also see the people we help a lot. Yeah. And obviously I can't go into too much detail for particular incidents, but there have been times where I've been walking around Tesco, for example, and someone's walked past me and I've kind of gone, oh, I know that guy from somewhere. And it's taken me a minute to place them. Sure. But then I've realised that this was the person that we'd helped you're kind of out of the car
Yeah.
a couple of weeks before or whatever. And they don't recognise me because obviously
Because you've been suited and
because I'm not in my uniform.
helmeted and everything.
And I'm walking around Tesco and I'm a bit grumpy.
Like, no, you're not that guy that was smiling when you turned up because of the adrenaline rush.
That's right.
I'm joking.
But but it's nice because sometimes you have that feeling of, oh, this guy wouldn't be sitting drinking in the pub with his mates if it wasn't for us. We don't go up to people and go, oh, we help, but you see them from afar, and
it's just that kind of quiet, sort of.
Yeah, and that gives you so much value and so much, and we're known. That everybody in the area knows who the firefighters are.
Yeah.
And it's nice because we're welcomed in places. And people understand. If you're in the shop and a pager goes off, the amount of times I've had a bag of shopping in Tesco, I'm just about to pay for it, and I've just gone like that and given it to someone.
Yes.
I'll be back as soon as I can. And Tesco's got like a 2-hour parking limit for your cars, and you run out and you say to the security guard, "That's my car," because it's quicker to run from Tesco to the station.
Right, got you.
That's my car. I might not be back.
I might not be back for a while.
And they go, whatever, fine, And so you recognise and and it does give you that feeling of satisfaction, and it's very good for your mental health. And on that, when incidents do happen that have the potential to damage someone's mental health,
yes,
the system moves in really quickly. Really quickly. So the senior officers are trained in mental health first aid. There's wellness departments and divisions in the service. If an incident is seen as something that could be troublesome in any way whatsoever, people will come and they'll come to the station and sit with you and go, right, do you need us? Do you need any help? There's no stigma involved in it. One of the guys was wondering once whether if they went to ask for help for the wellness, would they be taken off the run, and would the colleague, and it's like, absolutely not. You'd still be there. You could do as much or as little as you want, and there's that feeling. Everyone goes, okay, so we are very good at talking about it. We're very good at opening up, because it's that kind of place. And the other interesting thing, and again, the former service people will absolutely know, there's a guy, I'll not mention his name, because if he watches this,
please don't.
His name, he'll go.
I don't want to have to do any post-editing.
There's a fella in our station who's scared of heights, right?
Hang on a second. Wait a minute.
I find this is really funny, and this is why I can say it. I won't mention his name to save his blushes, but if he's watching, he'll know what I mean. He's scared of heights, unless he's got his fire kit on.
Do you know, I can totally see how that works.
If he's got his fire kit on, he can climb to the top of that tower, he can dance around on the roof, he can do anything he wants like that. But if he hasn't, he can't stand on a chair. He's terrified of heights.
It's amazing.
And it's a suit of armour, this kit. It's
that must be so relatable as well to what people, again, that military life, the sort of extremities that you're pushed to that just don't factor in. Civilians like me, I couldn't even begin to comprehend. It is like that suit of armour where you can almost become a different person. Yeah,
you do. You put it on and you put your fire kit on. Particularly, I mean, the working dress Mode A uniform, I have to say, and I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, it's awful.
Don't worry.
It's not. I don't know who designed it, but he wasn't a stylist, I can tell you that. It's awful. But it's functional, all right? It works, it's fireproof, which is what I suppose is important.
I suppose that's kind of the most important thing.
But the rest of the kit, the actual fire kit, is absolutely superb. They've spent money on it, they've made it good, and you put it on, and you sit in the back of there, and the sirens are going, and your brain clicks. I cannot tell you how, since I've been in here, how much I have learnt about the flow of water through a pump that I never thought even existed. I could tell you that sitting in there, Jane, is a self-priming centrifugal pump which has no pistons or valves or moving parts that can break, and it's fed from 3 different supplies. A gravity-fed supply was a tank, or a pressure-fed supply was a hydrant, or an open water supply. And I can go through the whole movement of water through that pump if you want me to.
Well, for the people that are watching on audio, I will actually insert a little clip, because afterwards I think I'll get a little recording where you can maybe we can kind of talk through it a wee bit, and
it's that kind of thing where you go through this training, and again, the service people, training is a way of life. And we, Tuesday night we have our drill night, and we come down, we do the checks on the appliances and the checks on the equipment, and then we train. And we've got a smokehouse out there, so we put our BA sets on, which is a suit of armour above a suit of armour. and we check the breathing apparatus, BA breathing apparatus. Sorry, I'm using jargon, and we go through and
not more jargon. I get enough of it when we're talking about military stuff.
BA sets and all that kind of thing.
Exactly.
But it's all that kind of thing. The only thing that I've not used on one of these appliances is what's called a gas tight suit. So a gas tight suit is if you go into kind of chemical spills,
right?
But they only go up to 1.96 meters. And I'm 2 meters tall.
I was going to say.
So I'm exempt from gas tight suits, which is a delight because they're really uncomfortable.
Right.
So whenever we do gas tight suit training,
you're making the tease. You're on the bruise.
I'm just not interested in that because I don't know anything about gas tight suits because I'll never wear one.
Fair one. So to kind of come full circle and kind of wrap the whole conversation up, naturally, the reason why we wanted to do this episode in particular, and I've always, when I was planning out the series, I kind of saw this as almost a bit of a bonus episode because it's different to the sort of usual resettlement chat that we're invested in at the OAS. But I can see how passionate you are about what you do.
Love it, yeah.
And it's came through in every conversation we've had prior to this, and it's came through, it's translated over the mic and over the camera today. I have no doubt about it. So I guess my last question for you is just, do you feel like since you've become a retained firefighter that it is actually in any way made you better in your
commercial life?
100%.
100%, without a doubt. It absolutely, and I'm more focused at work.
Yeah.
I have better conversations with my clients. My clients are interested in it as well.
Yeah.
It's
a heck of an icebreaker, I'll tell you that.
It's great. My clients are interested in it, and the amount of people go, "Oh, I wish I could do something like that." I've got a pal actually that I was at Sandhurst with, who's a very senior man in the insurance industry now, and he's a client of mine as well. He's an old mate, but he's a client of mine as well. And he is fascinated by it because his local community fire station is across the road from him.
There you go.
And I'd like, you have to join. You just have to join. And he's a bit older than me, and he I think he's thinking of joining just so he can get that record off me as being the oldest trainee.
Yeah.
But there is a time pressure. His job actually is more time demanding than I'm, and his family situation is different to mine, all that kind of stuff. So there are advantages that I have, which mean I can do this. And I mentioned the recruitment pool before. The recruitment pool is tiny for something like this because you have to be within a mile of the fire station when you're on call.
Yep.
My work and my home are both within that.
Yes.
You're on call there's different contracts you can have. My contract is 80 hours a week that you're on call. People go, oh, that sounds like an awful lot. And it is.
Technically it is,
but I'm on call now.
Yeah.
And we're doing this. I could be sitting, if you sleep for 8 hours a night, in 5 nights, you've done half, so it's all of that kind of stuff. Then you've got the fitness requirements, you've got the aptitude requirements, the interviews are fairly straightforward, I have to say, because they kind of want you to be here. There's the medical tests, all that kind of stuff, and then there's the training, and people do fail, various parts of this, and some people pull out because they're worried about the commitment, but it is a big commitment, but it's phenomenal. And in answer to your question, that one of the first things I noticed was how much more focus I had at work. Because I think I was getting bored at work. Yeah. Quite frankly, I think that was it.
That's honest.
My business pretty much runs itself now. Now that's not an accident. That's 10 years of really, really hard work.
Of course.
That have resulted in the last 4 or 5 years of actually, I've got a bank of clients who are wonderful to me, they now ring me up and ask me for stuff rather than me begging them for stuff, and which is great, but that's because of the investment that I've put in. So I think I was getting a little bit bored.
Yeah.
And I'd be sitting in my office and I'd be thinking about who am I going to call and all this kind of stuff, and then suddenly I've got this, and I'm telling people about it.
When you've got that little bit of an undercurrent to something, then even if you are just sitting behind the computer, but there's that bubbling undercurrent of excitement of the pager could go off at any second. You're gonna spark harder. You are.
It's quite funny because when I'm doing something that's really boring, I'm desperate for the pager to go. I'm I'm doing a VAT return or something like that, I'm like, please. And they laugh here because it's, as I say, I'm first here if I'm at the office. And the amount of times I've run in and just gone, tell me it's something good, because I was doing a VAT return, and they're all like, and there's a lot of guys here who are tradesmen, so we get people coming in who are kind of covered in water because they've been under the plumber, and they've been under someone's sink.
Sure.
And the page has gone off and they've jumped and they've done that and the water's hit them and stuff like that.
Yes.
So there's loads of little kind of comedy bits, but I find myself sometimes, if I'm bored in the office, like staring at the page and going, go on, go on. Something happened. And equally, I can be at home watching a film or something like that, and I'm staring at it going, please don't go on. Please don't, just get to it. And it's one of those things, if you cook a steak, your page will go off if you cook a steak.
Oh, I
you
bet.
Cook a steak and you get
it's going to be that sod's law.
So there you go. That's the perfect steak. I had one once where I was making lamb for dinner. I'll tell you this last one, and then there's a little funny to finish it off.
Yeah.
I was making lamb for dinner, and we had people come round, and I bought this huge lump of lamb. It was like that, and I was at the office, and I decided to slow cook this lamb over kind of about 4 hours or whatever. So what I decided to do was I would leave the office, go home, put the lamb on, come back to the office. And I'm on call at this whole point, and nothing had happened for a couple of days, which is unusual, actually. We do get quite a lot of call-outs, and nothing happened for a couple of days. And so I go, right, okay, and I nip home, and I'm rubbing olive oil into this leg of lamb, and I've got the oven on, and then I pick it, and I put all the rosemary on it. Like, it was looking lovely, and I pick it up, and I've got this huge leg of lamb in my hands, and covered in olive oil. And, of course, the pager goes off.
Of course it does.
And you kind of go, what am I going to do? So I just dump this lamb into the sink, and when the pager goes off, you'll press a button. Oh, there you go. That's not the pager going off. That was me.
Thank
pressing
goodness.
I
was ready to jump into the fire engine there and help.
You press a button to stop it. Because my hands were covered in olive oil, I couldn't get the purchase on the button to stop it.
Right.
So this pager's going on. It's really annoying. And I'm like, wah! And eventually, I just put a pair of gloves on, because I couldn't get this oil off my hands. I just put a pair of woolly gloves on and got in my car and I drove down and I ran in, and it was the middle of summer and I'm running with these woolly gloves. And I was like, why have you got woolly gloves on? I was like, because my hands are covered in olive oil. And they were like, right, so many questions. And we went out and finished this incident. And I spent the whole time wiping my hands with kind of tissue paper because I've got it covered in olive oil. It was all down my trousers. And I got home, and just as I got home, my wife turned up, and she was like, why is there a leg of lamb in the sink? And I'm like,
just don't ask.
Just don't. We're not slow cooking it either. We've got to stick it in the microwave. But it's that kind of thing, where it's you just never know when it's going to happen.
I love it. And actually what's nice is that you're kind of sharing these moments with your family rather than being away deployed. They're kind of sharing in this excitement with you in a way, which makes it relatable and conversation and understandable as well, and less detached from your real life.
And this is a family station as well. So my daughter is doing a Duke of Edinburgh at the minute, and she's doing it on knowledge of the emergency services. She came down to interview the management team. Yeah. And they're wonderful to her. They love her. They're kind to her. She's kind of part of the gang.
Yeah.
Oh,
right. It's happening. Okay. So, Matthew, here we are. For everyone at home who is watching, you will see that the setup has become dramatically different. For everyone who's listening on audio, Matthew's pager actually just went off there, and that was quite a hustle and bustle of activity. I've never seen people move so fast, and I've never seen us have to get rid of the set so quickly. But for those of you that are listening on audio, we're now actually we're just standing in front of the...
The day has been saved.
The day has been saved.
The day has been saved, yes.
So I wanted to jump back on and wrap things up with you because we had such a great conversation, and that in a lot of ways was quite a poetic ending to our conversation. Yes.
It was quite appropriate, wasn't it?
It was appropriate, and I tell you what, quite something to see, how quickly you and the other guys ended up fully kitted and in there and off. It was actually, my adrenaline went because it had all happened before I had time to process it. But the day has been saved.
The day has been saved, yes.
That's the reality, I guess, of what you're doing.
Well, it is. That's exactly what happens. You have no idea when that page is going to go off, and when it does go off, you saw that the system works. The wheels just start in motion. The call out sheet came out. We knew what it was.
Yeah.
The team turned up. We had a driver, a crew commander, which is the two things that you absolutely need before you can leave. The doors opened correctly, which is always a nice thing, and that was that. Quite a lot of traffic in Haddington, but it all it all moved out of our way.
And it was a really good example of how the work that you're doing is so meaningful, important,
Yes.
which is what we've been talking about this whole time, that nothing else matters. I mean, all of this, it was literally like, get that out of the way and we're off. So anyway, we'll finish up there. It's been such an interesting conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
For everyone who has been listening and watching and hopefully inspired to perhaps get in contact with the fire service to talk about becoming hopefully a retained fire service member, how do they get in touch and how do they apply?
It's very simple. So you type into a search engine retained firefighter and your local area. You'll then find out whether the area does have a retained system, which it probably does if you live outside a city. This particular community fire station here, there's out of the 16 of us that are here, 3 people are whole-time firefighters as well. So they're in they're whole-time firefighters as their full-time job, and they do this in the same way as the rest of us do as well. And you'll find that in the inner city fire stations there's a few retained people as well. So pretty much anywhere in Scotland, just type in retained firefighter and all the information will come, and it's a very, very simple process. You just click a link, fill out an application form,
and see if you pass the fitness test.
And see if you pass, exactly. And if I can do it, everybody can do it. So, before you know it, you'll be wearing a pager and flying around in one of those helping people.
Leaving me stranded in the middle of a podcast
Bye, ladies.
episode. Well, listen, Matthew, thank you so much for your time. For everyone at home, I hope that this has been a really different but also really useful episode, and one that has given a little bit of meaning to that resettlement process. Now, if you are needing any help with your resettlement, please feel free to contact us at the Officers Association Scotland. You can go on our website, get in contact, sign up, and make use of the amazing services that we have. If you have any specific questions for Matthew, please drop them into any of the comment boxes. It doesn't matter where that you're listening to this podcast, we will be checking the comments. So if there's anything specific that we didn't get into that you'd perhaps like to know, feel free to drop a comment.
And I'll be happy to help answer any questions without a doubt,
Absolutely. And from combat boots to business suits to fire engines. See you later.
See you later.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.